Okay, in this video I'm gonna cover two topics. The first topic is the difference between nothing and nothingness. The second topic is that the ultimate realization of the absolute truth is very simple and in a sense is easy to attain, but it's almost impossible to accept. And even though myself, you can believe what you want, like, oh, this person hasn't realized this or whatever. Like, to me, I'm absolutely certain that I've realized this truth, but if I'm being honest with myself, I don't think I've still fully accepted it. So, and both of these topics like tie in with each other. Essentially, the difference between nothing and nothingness, as I say, at the absolute level, everything is itself. So nothing is nothing. So when I'm saying nothing is nothing, what that means is that there is no such thing as nothing. There's only like somethingness. There's only like things. There's no such thing as nothing. Nothing doesn't exist because nothing is nothing. Because the mind can only understand things, because like your mind is interpreting sensory input, data input from your senses, like from the world, which are things. So your mind only knows how to interpret things. So your mind doesn't know how to think about nothing. It can't understand what nothing is. So when it hears nothing, it can like conceptually understand, nothing is like not something, but it's still kind of comparing against something, and it's still, even though it conceptually understands what nothing is, it doesn't really understand. It still puts nothing in the category of something. It still doesn't understand that nothing actually just doesn't exist because nothing is nothing. So that's nothing. But nothingness, and why I always say that, like the self is nothingness in a sense, rather than saying it's nothing, is because nothing, like saying the truth is nothing, would almost indicate that there is no truth, but that's not true, because as I said, the absolute truth is absolutely true. So that would be almost like completely incorrect. So it's not really accurate. Of course, there's limits to language, so everything I say is going to be slightly wrong, but what seems to me to be the most accurate way of describing it is not saying that truth is nothing or that the self is nothing, but saying that truth and the self is nothingness. Because the difference between nothingness and nothing is that nothing is actually nothing. It's like saying non-existence in a sense. It's like saying minus. Like just like it's not there. Whereas nothingness is there, but it has no essence of its own. Like it has no quality about it. So nothingness is actually there. Like nothingness is there. Like it's not nothingness isn't nothing. Nothingness is a quality. It's something that is there but has no like specific quality about it, because as I've explained many times in my videos, everything that is something that exists, like this remote controller, this is something. It has a quality, like it's black and red and so on. So it has a shape. It exists in 2024 at this particular time in London at this geographical space. So it has all these qualities which define it. And all of the qualities are defined by everything that it's not. So if it's in London, it's not in Hong Kong. If it's in London, it's not in New York. If it's black, it's not white. If it's black, it's not blue. So on and so forth. So everything, and same with this phone, same with this this candle. Like everything has like qualities. Everything that is something has a quality, and it's defined by what it isn't. So on and so forth, right? So why nothingness is so hard to comprehend and actually impossible for the mind is because like it is same as all these somethings that are right. Nothingness is, but it doesn't have a quality. It doesn't have anything that you can define it against, because it's everything, and everything is made out of it. So there's not anything else that like you can define it against. Like you can't say nothingness is black or white or in London or in New York or like in space or somewhere else. Like you can't say anything about it. So unlike nothing, like nothing is actually just nothing. It's not even there. But nothingness is there, but it has no quality about it. You can't perceive it. You can't see it. You can't feel it. So that's the difference. Nothingness is actually there. It's absolutely there. It's always been there and it will never not be there. Nothing is nothing. Nothing has never even ever been there. See, so nothingness is a quality. Nothing isn't a quality. Nothing is just nothing. So that's the difference between nothingness and nothing. And as I've said many times, the absolute truth, which is just that the absolute is absolute, so there's no opposite to it. That's all that there is. That's the only truth that there ever has been. And that truth is that the truth is true. And that the only thing that could be true is the truth. And if something isn't true, then it's not the truth. Because truth is true by definition. Right? And that's why everything is true. It's absolute. Because if it's not true, then it's not true. What are you speaking about? It's not there. You see? Is. Isn't. It's like a mathematical equation. A plus and a plus equals a plus. A minus and a minus is a plus. Because both minuses cancel each other out. You see? So this realization, I am myself. Self-realization, I am myself. The truth is true, absolutely. The truth has always been true. Nothing made the truth true. The truth was always true. Whatever the truth was what the truth was at any given particular time. And there's not any specific quality about it. That's what I'm saying. The truth is elastic. It doesn't matter if some conditions change. It doesn't matter if like this cup is here, like this mug is here or here. See, the truth can... Like the conditions of the truth can change, but see, this was true and this is also true. So it doesn't matter how it changes, no matter which way it is, the truth will still be true. See, so it's unconditional. No condition or changing conditions can undermine it, because it's every single condition like superimposed, like in a superposition onto itself. So yeah, this truth is very simple. It's the most simple thing. I am myself. But when I'm saying I am myself, as I've explained many times in my past videos, that's not referring to this human body, your name, your identity, your beliefs, your personality, like where you are, like anything, your soul, anything, like nothing to do with that. Just the self is itself. That's what it is. The self is itself. It is itself. It's not it isn't itself. It is. That's what it is. What the self is, that it is itself. It is. You are yourself. That's what you are. You are yourself, and you always have been. Right? But there's no particular quality about that. That's why I'm saying it's nothingness. You are, but there's not anything about yourself that you can define yourself. You're undefined. You can't be defined other than by saying that you are yourself. That's all you can say. You know for a fact that you are yourself, right? You know for a fact, I am me. I am I. I am that I am. That's in the Bible or whatever. I am that I am. You know that feeling, I am, that feeling that you exist. That feeling that you are true, that you're here. That's not like the feeling of like, that's not neurons firing in the brain, in the human brain. That's not that. That's not like some illusion, ego or something like that. That's not an illusion. Everything else is an illusion except for that. That's the most true thing. That's that thing that you're so certain about, that you're here right now. That is the absolute truth. And it's so simple. It's the most simple thing. And it's the most easiest thing to realize, but it's the most hardest thing to accept. Because, see, like, usually when you first hear about enlightenment and awakening, they're kind of telling you, there's no self, the self is an illusion, all this stuff. See, and the mind always works, the ego always works in dualities. It can only understand things in dualities. It can only understand what something is by its contrast, right? Um, so like so usually you think of yourself as I am, like I am, as opposed to not being. See, like even the ego thinks that it is itself. See, this is where it gets tricky, because I'm saying I am myself, but I'm not saying it from the ego sense, because the ego, even the ego that's not awakened, not realized, thinks that it is itself, but it thinks that it is itself something in particular. Same as I explained, like what this is. It thinks I am myself, but then when it's saying that, it's saying, oh, I am Nathaniel. I am this body. I am male. I am here, like in London, not there. I am like in 2024, not in 2026. See, so it thinks that it is itself, but what that self that it thinks it is very particular and defined by certain conditions. But that's not what I'm saying you are, absolutely. Right? So in that context, you like the ego, when it hears that, like it thinks that it is itself, but it's being defined by all these particular conditions. And then when it hears like a spiritual teacher saying that, oh, you are not the self, there is no self, then your mind is just basically taking one half, which it thinks that it is, like I am this, and then like, which means that I'm not that. And then it's basically just thinking, oh, so instead of being I am, that means I am not. See, so it's like going from something to nothing. It starts thinking, oh, like I thought I was, but I'm not. See, but it's still being like co-defined by what it thinks it is. So when it starts to think, oh yeah, I'm awakened, I'm realized I had ego death, then all that what that was is when people say I'm enlightened, when they got enlightened, this thing that's supposed to be so big, is all that they realize is that they realized that they weren't what they thought they were. They thought they were a human. They thought they had a name. They thought all of these things that they identified with that they weren't. But now they've realized they're not that. So they realize I am not. But then, see, they start thinking that notness, like what they are not, they think that that's absolute. They think that the self is absolutely not there. And then, even though they're still acting as if they are here, because the self is always there. So they know that they're not like what they thought they were, but they're still there. And then they start acting like, oh yeah, like I am nothing, there is no self and stuff. But then like you're not really taking it literally. You're not really taking it literally, because the self is still there in the absolute sense, and that's never gone anywhere, and that's what you always were. So essentially, the ego, when it like gets enlightened, or when it understands what enlightenment is conceptually, it goes from this somethingness in particular to nothing. It goes from something to nothing, but that nothing is still defined by like opposite against the something, right? And then when that nothing that it thinks it is now, that there is no self, the self is nothing. That is the nothing that I just explained earlier on in the video. It's not the nothingness, it's nothing. It's not nothingness, it's nothing. So see, that nothing, what nothing actually is nothing. So there's no way the self could be nothing, because the nothing, there's no such thing as nothing. You understand? Right? So like if you're saying the self is nothing, I am nothing. So who's saying that? Like who is saying that? Like actually, who's saying I am nothing? See, it's impossible. If like the self is nothing, like there wouldn't even be someone speaking. There's not even like nothing is actually nothing. There wouldn't even be like someone thinking, like, yeah, I am no self, like, but it feels like I'm a self. I'm speaking, but that's just the illusory self speaking. Like, no. You've realized what you want, but you're still there though. You still are exist, because that's the absolute self that's there. They haven't like that's why I say self-realization is above like enlightenment. You first have to get enlightened, and then only from there can you become self-realized. And 90, as I said, only this is probably still being what's the opposite of conservative? Like, this is being still the benefit of the doubt, but still, let's say for example 1% of the population is enlightened, and I'd say it's probably way less than that, 0.001%. And then out of all of those, if you took all of those 0.001% that are enlightened, only 0.001% of those are self-realized. You see, and most of the spiritual teachers you hear on YouTube and so on, they're all enlightened. I've watched so many of them. They actually are enlightened, but they're not self-realized. They haven't got that last step. I'm not trying to say that to like, sound higher or something like this. Like, I didn't even know that existed. I didn't know self-realization existed until I got self-realized. I thought self-realization was the same thing as enlightenment. I thought it was all the same. Realization, awakening, enlightenment, I thought it was all the same. I thought it was just different words. But it's not the same at all. So all these enlightened people, they still think that there's no self and stuff like this. And they're just ignoring the blatant fact that there is still the self there. The absolute self. See, they've just deconstructed the human ego, which isn't even that hard to do. Like if you just really think about it for a little bit, like, of course you're not this human self, you know, but the self is still there. Like, how could you lie about that? The self is absolute. That I amness. See, but it's not like, see, what they deconstructed is, as I said before, in the human mind, because it's all by divisions and duality, when you say I am, it's always saying I am this or I am that. That's what I was explaining with I am a human, I am male, not female, I exist, not existing, I am alive, not dead, so on and so forth. But this I am that I'm speaking about, nothingness, the absolute, this nothingness quality, that's I am, but without something else attached to it. So it's not saying I am existence, or I am non-existence, or I am large, or I am small, or I am human, or I am alien. Like, it's not saying anything. It's just saying I am, full stop. That's why I say I am myself. But you could even take away myself. You could just say I am, full stop, or I, full stop. Because it's not even that I am. Because when you're saying am, look, like, or I is, then the mind again is gonna like define that against isn't. Saying I is as opposed to I isn't. Not no. See, and this is what I'm saying. The mind, even if I just say I, then it's gonna start defined as I as opposed to other. Like, no, there's not even such a thing as other. There's only I. See, it's absolute. There's not an opposite. That's what I'm saying. The dream of others, that is the dream. That's Maya. That's the matrix. The illusion that you're supposed to break out of. That you've been in your whole life. So yeah, that truth is very simple. I am myself, absolutely, and there's no particular quality about it. So essentially, and this is why it's so hard to accept, because it means that you've always been yourself, and that isn't a human that was born, so you was never born, so you will never die. That isn't like a human or a biological thing that is in a particular time or place. That isn't a soul. There is no such thing as a soul. A soul is an illusion, part of the human dream. Again, that made you feel particular, like that gives you this essence, this kind of like this feeling of being spiritual. My soul, my higher self. Like, there's no such thing as a soul or a higher self. That's all just, see, within the dream, as I've explained in the absolute truth isn't deep. The dream is deep video. That's one of my favorite ones. You should watch that as well. Within this dream, which is all an illusion, there are dreams. Like, so there will be many dreams that are like just the dream, and then there'll be other dreams within that. Because as I said, the dreamscape is multi-layered, multi-dimensional, and that's what makes it so hard to escape. See, so within the dream, there'll appear to be lower levels and higher levels. So there'll appear to be like states, I'm unenlightened, and you'll look at other like or like there's unenlightened people, and then it will seem like there's enlightened people, and then you'll think, I was low, and then now I'm high, I'm enlightened now, and you're looking down on all those other people. Look at them, NPCs, bots, unenlightened people, and then I'm enlightened as opposed to being unenlightened. See, your mind is still in duality. That's a dream. See, so there's dreams that are appearing to be as if they are outside of the dream, but they are inside of the dream. So this is why it's so hard to accept, because it's absolute. This, like, you are yourself, you've always been yourself, but you're acausal, so there's nothing that caused you, nothing that created you, no conditions that made you. There's no like God that created you. There's not like a purpose for you being yourself. You being yourself is only to be yourself. Everything is its own point in the absolute sense. That's the zero dimension. The point, the zero dimension. Look at sacred geometry. Look at like churches and fucking temples and all these things. And look at fractal zooms and all of these kinds of stuff, right? Geometry, sacred geometry, all of these patterns and symmetries. Why are things that are symmetrical last longer and all these things? Because the absolute is the most symmetrical. That's nothingness. It's just an infinite field of consciousness which has infinite coordinates, and no coordinate is the center, and there is no edge. That's the quantum field, and it doesn't begin or end anywhere. And any point you take can be, because there's no true center, any point you take can be taken to be the center of the whole field, because there's no edge. And that's why every single sentient being, even if I'm over here in London and you're over there in New York, we both feel like we're in the center of the universe, because every single coordinate in the universe is the center. So it doesn't matter if like I'm here today or I'm yesterday. Like when it was yesterday, it felt like today, right? And then tomorrow, which is like 20 hours from now or 12 hours from now, like that's actually going to be in the future. But when you get there, it's going to feel like here again. And that's what eternity means. Eternity means the here now, which is everywhere. It swallows up everything. Eternity swallows up the present, the future, and the past, all into one. The eternity is all of it. And it's all here now. There is no like there. There is here and now is then. It's the same thing, because it's just the 0 point, and that's all there is. All of the coordinates are the same. And it's so difficult to accept, because there's no what, there's no why, there's no where, there's no when, there's no how. It's the most simple thing. As I said, I am myself. It's like it's equivalent to saying 1 is equal to 1. That's like equivalent as the absolute truth. As the absolute truth. It's literally equivalent to saying 1 is equal to 1. That's it. That's the absolute truth. The final awakening. That's it. 1 is equal to 1. Black is black. Look, black is black. There's no conscious beings being conscious of black. Consciousness can only be conscious of itself. Consciousness is not conscious of like things. Consciousness is conscious of consciousness. Black, like you don't need to be conscious of black, because black is black. If black is not black, then it wouldn't be there. See, so black is black. So no one has to even be conscious of it for it to be black. You're not seeing this. You're not seeing that black. You're not seeing that grey. Grey is just being grey in an empty vacuum of nothingness. Nothing made grey be grey. Grey is just grey by definition. That's what it is. See, it's just isness. It's just beingness. It's the bottom ground. It's the bottom ground layer. Like that's the bottom. Like you can't go below that. That's the bottom line. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. the fabric of reality, what reality is made out of. It's not made out of matter. So it's almost impossible to accept, because what I'm saying is, as I explained before, the difference between nothing and nothingness. I'm not saying that you are nothing. I'm not saying that everything is nothing. Like, this is what like some of these enlightened people are saying, because they haven't gotten to self-realization, and then they actually confuse, like, they know more and they're more accurate than like normal like people who are not even enlightened. But still, they're actually almost confusing unenlightened people, because they're telling them like 99% the truth, but that one last percent that they haven't realized is what will like skew and make everyone else misunderstand what the absolute truth is. See, when they're telling people I am, you are nothing, there is no self and all of that, then all those like egos, they're all getting led astray, because then they start thinking they're not thinking I am, like, the self is nothingness. They're thinking the self is nothing. Like, with like codifying against something and all of this. See, they think that the self is nothing now, and they think everything is nothing, and they think everything is nothing. Therefore, I don't exist, and so on and so forth. Even though it's clear, like, I exist, you exist, like. Or how can it's more accurate to say existence exists. See, they're speaking as if existence doesn't even exist, but existence does exist, absolutely. They're speaking as if reality isn't real, but reality is real, absolutely. They're speaking as if truth isn't true. Like, when they're saying everything is nothing, when they're saying reality is an illusion, like, what they're actually saying is like the opposite of what I'm saying. They're not saying 1 is equal to 1. They're saying 1 is equal to -1. That's what they're saying. They're basically saying 1 is equal to 0. Which is a complete lie. See, when I actually got self-realized, it was so insane to me, because it was like, oh my days. Like, oh my days. Because I saw the whole path. I saw how you had to be so straight. Like, to like, there were so many ways that you could have got veered off, like, into illusion. You had to be so straight on the path to even have gotten there. And like, when I saw like, enlightenment in a sense is actually completely wrong. It's like you have to get enlightened to get to self-realization, but enlightenment itself is almost completely inverse to the absolute truth. So if you get to enlightenment and think that's the top or the end, then like, you're going to be leading people astray. You're going to be telling them like illusions, because you're basically telling, like, when you're saying everything is nothing, and like things like reality is an illusion. Like, no, illusions are illusory. Illusions are illusory. There's not even such a thing as illusions. There's only reality. Everything is real. There's not even illusions. So how can you say reality is an illusion? That's a lie. You're lying. So it's almost impossible to accept, because, as I said, the self is itself, the truth is true, but nothing made the truth true. There's no process, there's no reason why you are yourself other than just to be yourself. There's nothing for you to do, and you could never not be yourself. That's what I'm saying. It's not even like you are yourself, which is a human, which is alive. So when you die and lose your human body, you will no longer be there. See, no, that's not true. You will still be there, because you're absolute. Those are conditions that are changing. Like, for example, if I move this from here to here, those are conditions that are changing. That doesn't change the absolute truth, that the absolute self is, that you are. See, so even if this human body dies and this human body is dead, right, you are still gonna be yourself. You're not gonna like you're not gonna go away like and be in some black void that doesn't exist. That void doesn't exist. Like, you think that when you go to sleep that you're being unconscious, that you're experiencing like unconsciousness. Like, you've never experienced sleep. Either you're in deep sleep, right, supposedly, and you've never experienced deep sleep, or you're in a dream. See, so either you're like conscious as a human, so to speak, you're conscious as a human, and then you go to sleep, and then let's say you have a dream. See, then you're conscious in the dream, and then you wake up, and then you're conscious again as a human. See, there was no unconsciousness there. Let's say you didn't have a dream, so then you're conscious as a human, awake, then you go to sleep, and then let's say, now you was in deep sleep, but then really and truly in your experience, like it was a split second, not even time passed, and then you woke back up. The moment you fell asleep, you woke up. There wasn't even sleep. You just tell yourself in the narrative, in the dream, I slept for, like you'll look at your phone, and then it will say, like 8 hours has passed. And then you'll say, I was asleep for 8 hours. You did not experience that sleep. That's why, think about like, why does it feel like, why does sleep go so fast? Like you could sleep for 12 hours and it'll feel like just a few minutes passed or something. Because not even time passed, there wasn't even sleep. There's no such thing as deep sleep. There's no such thing as unconsciousness. Because consciousness is absolute. Unconsciousness and sleep and death, these are like, not illusions, they're concepts. They're concepts that you're thinking about. You are experiencing them as concepts, as a possibility that you've never experienced yourself. So yeah, you are here, you've always been here, and you will always be here, but you don't have an essence. There's not anything that you can say about yourself that will define you. When people say, just be yourself, you don't have a particular self. See, when they're saying there is no self, like when enlightened people say there is no self, that's where they're being correct. Is if they said this one extra words, it will be a bit more accurate and people wouldn't be led astray. Is that there is no particular self. You can't say there is no self at all. You can say there's no particular self. That's true. There's no particular self that you are. Like an essence, you have a particular essence. Like you're this way and not that way. No, like you are absolutely, but you're not. Like there's not any like particular like attributes about you. You have no essence at all. You have no soul. You have no anything. But you are absolutely. Alright, cool. I think I'm gonna leave that one there. I think that was probably actually one of my deepest videos now that I think about it. If you enjoyed, give it a thumbs up. If you're new here and you enjoyed as well, please subscribe. If you're confused about anything or disagree, leave a comment. If you agree, leave a comment. I appreciate it. Cheers.